Welcome to Retro Scale Modelling. This is part 2 of Tamiya's US Aircraft Carrier Enterprise CVN65. So in part 2 is the actual beginning of the build. I'm going to be looking at the hull, placing that together, painting the hull, and start putting on some of the components. So let's jump into this and see how well I get on. So to begin with, I'm placing the hull together. As you can see there, I'm using a different cement, and the reason for that is I want a wider coverage area, so I'm using Tamiya's cement. Tamiya have two different basic cements, the normal and the extra thin. This is the normal one. It's a bit more thicker, and it'll weld the plastic a little bit better than the extra thin. This will ensure a good bond. Because it's such a heavy item to put together, I thought it'd be better to have a better bond. Even though it does sit in its trench here quite well, and it is placed together with some nuts and bolts to fashion it off, it's good to make sure that it's not going to move, because as I said, there's a lot of weight involved. It's not difficult to put together, it's just slightly awkward. As you can see there, I've popped off a couple of times, I've placed it on, but once I got it in place, as I said, it's then screwed in with some nuts and bolts. These will get covered up later on, so don't worry you're thinking that a screw or something will be shown. Unfortunately though, there is a hairline gap that needs to be filled in. I think that's just a design flaw. You're not going to get a tight interlocking piece, so I'm using Villaggio plastic putty just to fill in the gap. As you can see there, I put a little bit on and just thrown a kitchen towel over it to go into the actual cracks, and I'll leave it about an hour or so before I can do anything else. Well, more like 2 hours probably. It depends on what goes on and how long it takes to dry. So in the end, it took about 3 hours to dry. It's probably because it's so cold. But anyway, I can now start sanding it down. And I'm just using various sanding sticks to get this level. So I'm going for a rougher grade, then right down to a fine grade. I'm using Tamiya's masking tape here to start marking off the hull. So this is going to be the baseline for the transition from the grey to the red, obviously the black stripe in the middle. I should point out the hull is primed in two different colours. The normal grey primer, and the bottom is sprayed with a red primer. Now both primers are from Halfords, which is a car shop in the UK. But there's various brands out there that work just fine as well. Now the reason for the red primer is it's just easier when I lay down the red paint for it to sit on. It'll just take a lot more coats if I put it over the grey. So now I'm going to be painting the hull, and I'm using Revo Aquacolor 331 Purple Red. Now I use this colour so I don't have to mix any paint. I find this purple red colour is ideal for ships. If you don't have any, you'll have to mix red with a bit of brown to achieve the actual colour that you want. And once that's dry, I'm using Revo Aquacolor 76 Light Grey for the upper part of the hull. This will need at least 2 coats on the grey colour. The reason why is because I'm putting it on so thinly. It's going to need those multiple coats just to build up that colour. Once everything is dried and I've given it a thin coat of varnish, I'm now using more masking tape, and I'm laying it on next to the hard edge of the previous masking tape I put on. This is preparing to put in the black paint line. Now there's an argument that could be made that you just put down the black first and then put your masking tape over it, then paint. That way you're not using a lot of masking tape. However, I find if you do it that way, you get an uneven level of paint, because there's already a level of paint underneath it. So therefore, to combat that, you would have to paint the whole thing black. And it really does stand out. You do see the hairline level where the other paint is underneath. So it's something worth bearing in mind when you're doing large areas like this. If it's a small area, you don't really notice it, but in large areas, you do. So there's a piece of masking tape at the bottom, at the top of the line, and now I'm removing the original piece of masking tape I put on. This can be a little bit trickier than normal because it is obviously coated in paint and varnish. It may tear a little bit, but if you do it gently enough, it will come off without much problem. And then I'm using Tamiya's XF1 flat black to paint the line. I should point out as well, once the old masking tape is removed to paint the black line, I do put a coat of varnish down first to act as a barrier between the red and grey paint, and this will stop any light paint bleed. You may get a little bit of paint bleed, but it won't be a lot at all, so it's worth doing. And then once everything is dry, I can take off the masking tape. So you can see there are tiny little whiffs of paint bleed. That's very easy to sort out, but they're only minuscule amount that has gone over. Next thing to do is put the leading edge on the bow here. It fitted rather well. There's no any gaps in this, which is quite good to see. As you can see, it's just a little lip of plastic. It goes along the front of the bow. So while I'm waiting for the to dry, I'm taking the opportunity to paint the screws and the shafts. So the screws I've used Revit Color 93 copper, and for the shafts here that I'm painting, I'm using Revit Color 90 silver. Now the reason why I'm using the copper instead of brass, or sometimes people use gold, it's just because I like the colour. That's the only reason. I think it stands out better than a brass colour and so on. It's just my personal choice. Next to be placed on are the elevator tracks. As you can see there, they're easy enough to put on. The location points are nicely defined and they line up with the bottom part of the bracket quite well. If you look on though, you'll see drip marks. That is where the varnish is. Don't worry about that. That all gets tidied up near the end, if you're wondering what all those marks are. It's just the nature of the way I build these things. The varnish is going to run when I was using it on the masking tape. It's okay. That's easily sorted. It'll either blend in when I put a varnish on, or it'll be easily repainted. So now it's back to the build, and you have an option here with these compartments, but I have a solid back compartment, so they're closed, or you can have it opened. I've chosen to have the ones which are opened. If you wish, you can remove the back plating of these compartments and scratch build a deck to go in. I'm sort of wishing I did that now, but I've left it too late to do that. It would have been a nice addition, and it's relatively simple to do as well. Once you cut out those back plates, you just shape a piece of plastic card, place it in, then adorn it with whatever items you would think would be in the shape. But I've gone for the basic look in the end, and I sort of wish that I done a little bit more. I only thought about it after I put these in place, but that's how things go. The next thing to do is put in the braces on the hull. Now, if you don't put these in, the hull will warp a little bit and contract and sometimes push out. So these are essential to the build, so make sure that you put these in. They fit perfectly. They'll need to be secured with some sort of super glue or 2-epoxy glue, something like that. A robust glue that's going to hold these in position. There's 3 in total that you have to place in, and as I'm doing this is where I'll end part 2. If you haven't done so already, why don't you go and check out the channel for my other builds? If you're interested in ships, I've got a few ships on there that you can have a look at. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see the rest of this build, and all my upcoming builds as well, of course. This is quite a big build. It's going to be done in many parts, so just be aware of that. Hit the like button, please leave a comment, and don't forget to share the video. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.